Hi, everyone. Ann O'Connell with OC Publishing here, and happy Author Journey Day. And today is an even more special author journey because we are celebrating the launch of Diane Floyd Bame's much awaited Rise, A Girl's Struggle for More. Isn't that absolutely gorgeous? Today is launch day. Today is October 20th, and it's also the main character, Ruby Pearl's birthday. Ruby Pearl, the main character, is based on the author's grandmother. And today we have the author with us, and we're very excited to celebrate Ruby's first birthday, the book, Rise's first birthday. I guess it wouldn't be a first birthday yet, would it? But we're going to bring Diane up with us. And today we also have a special guest, another historical fiction OC Publishing author, Apple Gidley, who will be joining us to help celebrate in a moment. But for right now, let's bring Diane to join me. Hi, Diane. Congratulations.
Thank you. A long
excited. Oh my gosh. You know what? I even brought my party hat to wear because this is a day to celebrate. It is party time.
It is. Thank you. I love it.
Isn't it great? I'd be cracking the champagne, but we'll do that a little later. Well, congratulations, Diane, on the launch of your first young adult novel. How does it feel?
Thank you so much. It's wow. It's overwhelming and exciting at the same time. It took a lot to get this book done, and to have achieved this moment is very exciting. I just wish my mom, who I want to throw out there, she played a major role in, sharing family stories, as well as my grandmother sharing stories with us. But Mom was with me for most of the journey of writing the story, and even going with me on following the train ride and going to the museums. So it couldn't be done. It couldn't have been done. I'm getting emotional without my mom, Mabel Floyd Harris, and also without OC Publishing. So
thank you. And you lost your mom recently, and it was just so sad that she wasn't going to be here with us today. But I bet you 100% she is with us in spirit, for sure, celebrating this amazing accomplishment.
If my mom has anything to do with it, she's having a party in heaven, has everybody lined up, and they're with us right now. Going, that's my girl.
Well, and you briefly mentioned a train ride. It's actually one of my most favorite parts of the book. But we don't want any spoilers here. But no, the train ride is very exciting. And you also, you had a very exciting moment recently when Amazon was showing Rise as a hot new release, which is, it just always makes my heart flutter when one of my authors achieves a goal like that. And the rankings have been amazing for young adult historical biographical fiction. So kudos to you. It's been exciting. And as we said, it's been a bit of a longish road. Diane, for those of you who don't know, Diane is also a children's book author, and I have many of her books behind me. She is the writer of the Little Girl in the Moon series, which is very exciting. So she's published 5 children's books before today, and today being her first YA. We're so excited that we're finally here. We've been working on it for several years. Diane was the first OC Publishing author, so I really appreciate you putting your faith in me and the team here. So very exciting. We also have with us, like I said, Apple Gidley, who is another historical fiction author. But what I'd like to do before we bring Apple to celebrate with us is I'd like to have Diane do a reading from Rise, A Girl's Struggle for More. And we're going to do some giveaways today as part of our celebration. So hang on, let's just bring Apple up just for a second to say hello.
Yes.
We'll introduce Apple to everybody. Yay!
Hi, and congratulations, Diane. Wonderful. And to OC Publishing. It's great.
Thank you, Apple. Thank you for being here. It means a lot.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
And Apple has been writing historical fiction for several years. Apple was also one of the first OC Publishing authors, and her historical fictions are set in St. Croix in the 1800s during Danish rule. So she's going to share a little bit of her books with us in a little bit. And I just want to let everybody know, whether you're watching live or you're watching the replay, we're going to do some drawings of the books of Rise, A Girl's Struggle for More, and of Fire Burn, which is Apple's first historical fiction. And then, because we're talking about empowered women in a lot of these stories, two other OC Publishing authors were going to join us, but I'm going to also give away a copy of Montaha Hadefi's Groping for Truth. Woo! Speaking of empowered women. And another very special giveaway. We have another author in the family, right, Diane?
That's correct.
Rachel Bames' I Am Not is a memoir. Rachel has also wanted to give a shout out to her mom on this special day, on launch day. So we'll be giving away copies of those as well. So what we're going to do is when Diane finishes her reading, she's going to ask a question based on the reading. So listen carefully, and then fill in your answers in the comments below. And then we're going to open it, keep it open for the week. And on Friday afternoon, I'll do a drawing, and we the same for Apple's book. Apple will do her reading, and she'll have a question for you. And then anybody who answers the question correctly will put in a draw for that book. For the others, we'll ask for comments requesting which book you would like to be in the draw for. So without further ado, I hand it over to Diane to share just a little bit of the book, Rise, A Girl's Struggle for More.
Thank you, Anne, very, very much. I appreciate it. Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us on the launch of my first historical book. So I want you to sit back and relax. I always tell people to embrace imagination, no matter what age you are. The beautiful thing about books is you enter different worlds. So get ready for a moment to enter the world of my great-grandmother's world and my grandma's world. And I need glasses to be able to read these. Seriously, Ruby Pearl, put that book down and go help your sister get that chicken plucked for Sunday's dinner. Ruby's mama yelled upstairs. Yes, Mama, I'm coming, Ruby replied reluctantly. Ruby placed a marker in her book and left the upstairs landing alcove, which was her favorite reading spot. She loved it there because as she read, she could look out the tall, wide window, which looked into the large backyard where her mama had watermelons growing along with other melons depending on the season. The cherry wood molded the windows as well as the window seat, which opened up to store blankets for the winter. It was a cozy place where her mama had made a comfy cushion for the kids, especially Ruby, to relax and enjoy this little spot to gain composure, or as in Ruby's case, let her imagination go on whatever adventure her book would take her. Once more, this adventure came to an abrupt halt. So why? Because family duties, they called. There you go, a smidgen of just what Ruby was about to do. So my question for you is, where was Ruby's favorite spot to read? Thank you, Anne.
That's a great question. What was that chore that she was being called to do? That's one of my favorite parts too.
Yes. And in real life, not a chore my mother enjoyed doing.
Which was plucking the chickens, right?
That's right. That's the answer to your question.
Oh, I thought, where was she?
No, you didn't give away the answer to my question.
That's one of my favorite
thing is
well, if anybody knows the answer to Diane's question, please fill it in the bottom. And we have Cindy Flo has joined us to watch. Cindy says that you're awesome, so creative and dedicated. So she's also offered an answer, which is awesome. So anybody who has listened to the reading and knows the answer, please pop it in, and then we'll enter you in the drawing. So I'm going to bring Apple back to join the party. I took the party hat off. I should put it back on. And Apple's going to tell us a little bit about her historical fiction and do a reading from her book. So take it away, Apple.
Sure. Well, first, I'd just like to congratulate Diane, because I think writing young adult is a real talent, and it's not one I have. And I think one of the hardest things in writing historical fiction is getting the dialogue right for that period. And writing dialogue for 100 years ago, as Diane has done, even 50 years ago, is so different to the way we speak now. So huge kudos to you, because I really enjoyed reading the book, and I really felt I was there in that era. So brava.
And she's
done,
me
chills.
She's done extreme research, and it it took a long time. And also I meant to mention that there were preview parties held in the towns that the book takes place in Oilton and Drumright, Oklahoma, with some of the people who were very relevant and helpful in doing the research, and Diane doing the research. So give a shout out to those folks, Diane.
So Tammy Posey and Drumright Historical Society Museum, thank you very much for the pre-launch. It was amazing, and all the extra time you spent with me when I was there, plus the time you spent with me online and in person to make sure that I had the history correct. So thank you.
And you posted some wonderful pictures from the inside the boxcar where the party was held on your social media, right?
Yes, that is correct. And how special is that? Tammy Posey, who put it all together, surprised me with the boxcar, and I was just like, "Oh my gosh!" I'm blown away.
And the very, very cool cookies too that had the cover of the book, and that was really quite beautiful.
Yeah.
Lots of fun.
She also took me, and Apple, you'll love this. So when you go to Drumright Museum, so for those who don't know, go to Drumright. It's incredible. If you enjoy gasoline, you owe Drumright. People of Drumright, because Drumright, Oilton, Shamrock, Cushing, all of those. But yeah, boom towns, especially Drumright and Oilton were known as boom towns. And Oilton was the place where a lot of the workers worked, and the more sophisticated area was Drumright. And Tammy took me to a place that I kept trying to figure out, where is it? Because when you look at pictures, you'll see all of a sudden all the different places where they've discovered oil, and it's just, and I'm actually going to post it now. Then and now picture, because she took me to what it looks like now at the river. And that was pretty special to see. So I got to just sit there and imagine what it must have looked like to the pictures. So. And
on the cover of the book, it might be hard to tell from this angle, but that picture in the background is actually a picture of Oilton. Yes, that was sourced through the Drumright Historical Society Museum, I believe.
That is absolutely correct. And then that's my grandma at 16.
Yes, so thank you ever so much. And the shout out to our designer, our book designer, David Edelstein, who will actually be on next month's author journey, sharing his journey as a book designer, part of our OC Publishing team. And also want to point out that Diane's also did some research into what's called a dyslexia friendly font. And so we have a version of Rise that is published with a dyslexia friendly font, and Barnes and Noble is carrying both versions of the book. So much excitement around the launch of this book.
We'll talk more about that cover in my grandmother's picture, but I can't wait to hear Apple's story.
Okay, well, we'll loop back to that. And thank you, Apple, again for joining us, and take it away.
Okay. Well, my book is based, as Anne said, in the Danish West Indies. It's called Fireburn, which was an actual event in 1878. So this is the very start of the book, when Anna, who is an Anglo-Danish woman, comes back to St. Croix from England and has brought her English lady's maid with her. A bone-thin cat, teats hanging low, slunk towards a tray of fish balanced on an upended barrel. The fish, mouths and fins long still, were getting cheaper by the minute as the sun turned their once shimmering scales a flat, dead grey. A grimy bare foot emerging from beneath a hem weighed down with sea scum kicked the cat away. Frizzy curls peeked around the colourful scarf, at odds with the drab twill of the woman's dress, and bounced with indignation as she spat a rough curse at the darting animal. Grunts and swearing filled the air as men, rivulets of sweat streaking their face and naked backs, heaved goods up from drays. Hogsheads, giant vats of rum and sacks of sugar crowded for position, some bursting, sending golden granulated arcs across the wharf. In the cool of the foot-thick walls of the scale-house, each was unloaded, weighed and recorded by a behatted white man, dressed in white. Only after merchants and planters or their agents climbed the steps of the nearby customs house, where another official collected the relevant taxes, was the cargo loaded onto ships for Europe and America. Anna explained the process as she and Ivy stood in the dappled shade of an old mahogany tree, removed from the shin-banging dangers of carts rushing to the wharf, and upwind of intoxicating fumes seeping from the barrels. "Rum, my lady? I never knew rum came from here," Ivy said, longing to sink onto one of the trunks, her feet sticky in stockings and boots that felt a size too small. "It's been the lifeblood of the Caribbean. Better to drink the juice of the cane than of the cassava. That ivy is poison," Anna said, her eyes darting up King Street each time a carriage clattered towards the melee. "It seems we are not being met just yet. Sit now." "No, my lady, isn't all right," Ivy replied, wondering what cassava was and fearing there would be many such moments of confusion. "What's that building?" she asked, pointing to an enclosed compound across the teeming square. "The Danish West Indies and Guinea warehouse," Anna explained, "where, before slavery was abolished, Africans were oiled, prodded, and sold. It was a dishonourable time in our history, not just here, but all through the islands and America. We Danes and British, along with others, were guilty of dreadful deeds." "But who got the slaves?" "Plantations, Ivy, to grow, harvest, and produce the sugar, or cotton, or tobacco. Europeans were quickly found to wilt in this climate, but those from Africa had little need to adapt." "No, my lady, begging your pardon, I means, who sold them people in the first place?" Looking quizzically at Ivy, Anna was again reminded not to dismiss her maid as a simple girl from the East End of London. She had an inquiring mind, just not always the words to express her thoughts. "Slavery had been around a long time. I'm sure it still is in some parts of the world," Anna replied. "Arabs, other Africans," she continued. "When it became known there was a market for humans in the New World, people were taken from their villages, royalty as well as commoners, and sold to the traders on the coast of Africa. It was a most lucrative business." Lapsing into silence, they watched the constantly moving parade of people, like a carefully choreographed ballet, until Ivy's voice broke through their quiet. "Everyone's very black, my lady," she said. "They seems blacker than the black men I seen in London, and I never seed a black lady before." Anna smiled at the drooping girl, heat and anxiety rising off her in waves. "Ivy black is only a colour, like white. There are good and bad of both. Someone will be along presently, and once we're home there will be much to do. Please, sit. I stand only because I find it cooler." "My lady?" Ivy asked after a moment, nodding to black men labouring nearby. "Do thems have red blood, same as us?" And there you have it. Oh, am I still there? Hello.
Yeah, I always have to remember, I have to bring myself back up to hear him. Thank you so much, Apple.
I think it's interesting that both Diane and I have got strong female protagonists in a time when women were not meant to be strong. So it's such fun to write.
Exactly. And but based on real history as well. And that's what makes it especially exciting. Women who were overcoming, the oppressive nature of, their position or, forced position. And, it's interesting to note that in Diane's book, Ruby had it in her mind that she wanted to become an independent businesswoman before she knew what the suffrage movement even was. Right. But then as she grew up and made acquaintance with women who had been involved in the movement. Again, I don't want to give too much of it away.
Because it's the second book.
Yeah, but she was positioned, quite beautifully, and already had that mindset and didn't even have to be taught to, take what, what she really felt she, was destined for. So talk a little bit about that, Diane. What is it that you want readers to come away with when they read about Ruby Pearl?
Thank you. First, Apple, wow, beautiful. Your reading, incredible. It was so much fun to hear all the different sounds. Thank you. I can't wait to read more.
Draws you right in, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And it's sensitive topic too. Yeah, so well done.
Oh, and we have to have Apple ask her question.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. What was the lifeblood of the Caribbean?
What was the lifeblood of the Caribbean? Okay. Watching now or watching later? We're going to do a draw at the end of the week. Anybody who puts an answer into the comments of both Diane's question and Apple's question. Diane, do you want to repeat your question?
Where was Ruby's favorite place to read?
Excellent. Okay.
So can I make a comment about Ruby?
Yes.
Yes, of course.
There was a piece that I absolutely loved, and it was quite early on in the book. And it was actually Bessie's mum who was saying that, Daddy don't know it, but Mum is teaching me how to make him think it's his idea. So he likes to think he's in charge. I thought, oh, that is just brilliant. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. And the fact that Ruby Pearl's mother, even though she was and had been married off at a very early age, but she was actually a strong woman in her own right, just with the fact that she was a midwife. And it was just fascinating, absolutely fascinating to read. So that was just a line I wrote down because I thought, oh, I really enjoyed that. And I loved about the Christmas tree lights as well. That was great.
So many. And just, and having been a widow as well. And then, basically coming back from that because, in those days, that was kind of, that was it. Your life was going to just be solo and quiet, but boy, not for Ruby Pearl.
And being the widow, that's my great grandmother for people. So for Ruby's mother. So
Right.
Thank you. Yeah, I loved writing that line, and that was actually a trick we learned early on. It's a very Southern thing.
Anyway, so many lessons to be learned, really, from reading this book, and it's lengthy for a YA novel, but I believe it keeps you engaged, and it just didn't matter how many times I went through it. It was fresh and different each time, because there were different parts that I would hone in on, and so many. What's one of your favorite lessons that comes out of the story, Ruby's story?
So many. One was the discovering her mom in a different light. Not to give too much away, but that was a real eye opener for her, because it was always my dad, my dad, my dad, and then all of a sudden she was in a different moment, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, my mom's amazing," right? And I also, one of the things I truly appreciated was and learning that it was very common for people to do, that children didn't eat with adults. And so my great grandmother had rules that were posted that if
I love that.
you sit with us, this is how you behave at a dinner table. And these were things that my grandma Ruby carried through with us, and my mama as well. Get those hands off that table. One hand on the table,
right?
What I was Bob, and it would be kind of nice if we had a little bit more of the table manners going on. But and I think another thing that I always tell people that was just so shocking for me, and it really shows me, Apple, you'll appreciate it, and I'd really like to talk about how difficult it is to write historical fiction, was I never really put two and two together, that the word teenager was never used back in the 1920s.
Right.
It was because of the 1920s and all the different things that were going on. Cars were brand new, the excitement of everything happening. Oklahoma was, a brand new state at the time, that it was because this generation opened the doors for so many people by the 1950s. So it wasn't until the 1950s that the word teenager was a common word. So in the 1920s, once, you were either a child or you were an adult. And once you had that biological moment of turning into manhood or womanhood, it was time to get married.
Right. So, and that's one of the reasons that historical fiction is so difficult to write, because as you're a writer, like hammering out the story, sometimes the words you use may not even, like you said, have existed, or certainly wouldn't have been used in the way that we use them today. So trying to stay true to the era is really a challenge.
I had an interesting moment reading again your book, reading Rise, Diane, and that you talked about a light bulb moment. And I thought, hang on a minute, is that right? So I went to Google as my friend, and I learned, and this is what I think is so good about YA, is that hopefully the way you've written it, which you've written it so beautifully, is that a teenager is going to be reading this and think, I wonder when that came. And then they're going to go to Google and they're going to find it was Felix the Cat in 1919, which fits in with your book, which was written about 1921. So, it's that kind of thing that you just have to make sure you get it right every time. Fact check. And even when you fact checked it to the end, someone will come up to you and say, oh, no, that's not right.
Has that happened to you, Apple?
Once. It happened once. And I said, well, actually, if you read it in the context of it is right. But, people are always so quick to find fault. So you just have to let it roll over you, because you've done as much fact checking as you possibly can as a historical fiction writer.
You're right about that, because finally Anne goes, Diane, I think you're finished with the story. And I'm like, I don't know yet. I think I need to. And she goes, Diane, it's time to put the pen down.
6 years later, well, 5.
Yeah.
I need to say something about those 6 years. It probably wouldn't have taken so long, but I want people to know, especially if you're new to writing,
Yes.
that the reason it took me so long was A, it was my first time. B, I really wanted to study the history. I would write the story, and then I'd realize, you know what, it's missing a voice. And so I went back and I thought, you know, I really want to understand what my great grandmother was like before she married, what was going on in her life, because how she would have grown up and history that was going on, and she was in a different state. And then the same for my grandpa, and how they came together and were united.
Mm-hmm.
And as in any marriage, no matter what year or generation, you have to decide as a couple how you're going to raise your kid. And I felt that voice was missing. So I really went back and studied their history. And I think once I did that, it really gave me the glue that I needed.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing I discovered, so everyone who thinks, oh man, this generation, we're so cool. We have texting and our parents don't know what LOL means, you know. But again, in the 1920s generation, oh my gosh, they had words that the parents never knew. So not to give too much away, but you said, so Dad, I'm going to go to the bank, and your boyfriend, they didn't call them Bose, was with you. He knew what you really meant. And it was like, you're going to go make out. The bank really meant, I'm ready to go make out. So they had their own code words way back then.
Under the bleachers at the football game.
That's right. We do have a football game in the thing.
And so incredibly forward thinking, you know, especially the Ruby Pearl character, again, based on the real life of your grandmother, and just how, like, she always had in the back of her mind, you know, while she was behaving this way and doing good in school and dating Arthur, but the back of her mind was, this is not going to be me, you know, for in the future. And putting that plan together and, you know, making money on the QT, you know, it would be just like, oh my goodness. So here, you know, today's generation, the things they're hiding from their parents are it's not like I'm working hard to save money to go to school, right?
She was a very brave woman, wasn't she? Or girl. She was a very brave girl. I mean, to go, I won't say what she was doing to raise money, but not.
It wasn't bad.
The wrong thing. Wasn't bad. No.
Yeah.
But I mean, that took a lot of guts to do that.
Yeah.
Particularly at that time, I think.
Right.
It was. She was a very courageous woman.
And putting all the pieces in place and calling on, you know, certain individuals to help. And, you know, they were probably just sort of dumbfounded that they just kind of, okay, I'll help, but oh my goodness. You got to read the book. Oh my goodness, you got to read the book.
One of my second cousins who knew my grandmother before she even had, I guess when my mama was young, because it'd be my mother's cousin, but she was reading the book because I gave her a pre-copy. And I wanted to get a feeling for what she felt. And I said, now listen, remember, it's historical fiction.
I've made some stuff up.
That wasn't really where the first kiss was. No. But, kind of was. But anyway, but what I loved about what she said, because I was very nervous about family members reading it and so forth. And also, you know, they had their own take of how grandma's sisters would share a little bit about Ruby. So she said, you know, I knew your grandmother was a little bit ahead of her time, but man, what a character.
Nice. Nice.
And she goes, I can't put the book down, which was really great because she's moving to a new city to be closer to her kiddos. And she's like, I'm supposed to be packing. And I'd get a text message. It's like 11:30 at night. I still can't put it down.
Nice.
That is the biggest compliment.
Yeah.
When somebody
Really.
says, I just couldn't put it down. I mean, that is, again, kudos. Well, we're getting a little beyond here, our time, but it's so exciting to be actually talking about the book is out now. I'm just, it's
Yay!
yay, so
Wonderful.
exciting. And I want to make sure that we get in a quick little excerpt from Rachel's book.
Oh, yeah. Please.
Rachel Bain, who is Diane's very talented daughter. Diane has a very talented family. And one of the, I don't know if you can see it, one of Diane's books, or a couple of them, were also designed by her other daughter, Catherine Louise Bain. So it's really a family affair. So I Am Not is Rachel's memoir. And I think I can share with you, Happy, that she is working on another project. So stay tuned. Hopefully you'll see more of Rachel down the road. Rachel has used her memoir to share some stories, inspirational stories about her childhood and teen years and early 20s, where she battled with some bullying and weight issues. And just the goal of the I Am Not is to demonstrate how you can take those experiences and apply them to personal growth and overcoming that. So again, another woman who has empowered herself. She's now a small business owner. She's an amazing young woman. And part of her younger years, she was an aspiring actress. She actually did work as an actress for several years. She was on The Bold and the Beautiful, which I always like to say, which is kind of funny. But this is a very short excerpt, just to demonstrate some of the situations that she found herself in while trying to make a name for herself in LA, and the types of things that you were told about yourself. The chat is chapter 19, If the Mole Fits. You might consider removing your mole. Come again, I think, but I don't say. My screen acting professor allows only for a momentary silence before continuing. You're the sidekick type. You're Janine to Uma in The Truth About Cats and Dogs. You're the best friend, the character actor. The mole doesn't fit. You're not the model type. You're not the leading lady. If you were Cameron Diaz and not Toni Collette from In Her Shoes, then the mole would work. You don't have to. Just a suggestion. Or you could lose weight. You might fit the type and the mole then. No.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Those were some tough years.
As you can see, this absolute gorgeous beauty on the cover did not need to lose weight at that point. Spoiler alert, she kept them all.
Yeah, she did.
If you would like to be in the draw to win a copy of Rachel's book, my question is, who asked Rachel to remove the mole?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Okay, so, and I'm just gonna, from Montaha's book, Montaha Hidefi, Groping for Truth, another memoirist in the OC Publishing family of authors. I'm just going to read a little bit from the back of the book. So then you have a little bit of a feel for her story. Montaha's book was actually prompted, the writing of the book was prompted with the Me Too movement. She was born in Venezuela of Syrian parents, lived all over the world, and had several abusive situations. But of course, another example of a woman overcoming rising above and really, becoming an inspiration for other women who hope to get out of situations that are perhaps more than unpleasant. Montaha Hidefi's Groping for Truth, My Uphill Struggle for Respect is a gripping Me Too movement-inspired memoir that recaps the staggering story of sexual harassment and violence she endured throughout her life. The abuse began at the hands of her own mother and people from her community and then followed her around the globe. The author's pain is palpable as she recollects the roller coaster of emotions of a childhood shattered by physical abuse and mental manipulation, and decades of unwelcome sexual advances, groping and assault, even attempted murder. She shares her story of grappling with the pain and internal demons that resulted in phobias and rebellion against old traditions. This is the story of the transformation of a mistreated young girl and battered woman who refused to succumb to the cycle of violence and used the scars of childhood abuse as motivation to create a better life. Through sheer determinations, Montaha pursued higher education and rose to the level of global executive, a victory over her abusers. It's an inspiring story of love and perseverance in the quest for respect as a female in a male-dominated society. Yay.
Powerful book.
Powerful.
It's very powerful. And
Both are actually.
Yes, and
Rachel's is beautiful. Yeah. Yeah.
Groping for Truth, I am not. And don't forget, here's my question for Montaha's book is, what was the name of the movement that inspired her to write her story? So we have lots of giveaways. So please, if you're listening now or listening later, you'll have to go back and listen to Apple and Diane's questions and answer them. And at the end of the week on Friday, we'll do a draw and you'll win a copy of Rise, A Girl's Struggle for More, which is launching today. Happy launch day. Woo-hoo. And Apple's book, Fireburn. Woohoo! And again, Montaha and Rachel's books. So exciting. OC Publishing family, right now, we're all female authors. It's not, wasn't anything that we, wasn't a goal, wasn't anything we attempted to do. So if there are fellas out there who are writing interesting stories, don't hesitate to reach out, learn more about OC Publishing. Diane, congratulations again on an amazing launch. And Apple, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. And congratulations.
Thank you.
Very exciting. So we'll see you again soon, guys. And and thank you everybody for joining us today on the launch of Diane Floyd Bame's Rise, A Girl's Struggle for More. It's a young adult historical fiction that's set in 1920s Oklahoma and Chillicothe, Missouri. And I hope you'll get out there, pick up a copy, and learn more about the life of Ruby Pearl. And we're working on a sequel. Diane is busily working away, so stay tuned. Read the first book, and then you'll get more excitement as the story continues. So thanks for joining us today. Happy launch day for Diane's YA historical fiction, Rise, A Girl's Struggle for More. And we'll see you again on the author journey next month. We'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.